Oh, you found it.
Yeah.
You found it. You found it. Yeah, this is cool.
Awesome, Yuna. So
Yeah, you are awesome. Thank you.
yeah, no problem.
I just, I just found that there's an on-air hangout. So on-air hangout and then just the only Google Hangout are totally different. And I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, I blame Google for having inconsistent product names and making it hard for us to discover how to actually do things.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, where's Louis? Did you invite him?
I did because I sent you guys both the invite.
Mm.
Question is, he might have had to go because of
Mm.
scheduling conflicts or something. Who knows?
Mm.
Is he active?
Oh, cause I made a so before a few minutes ago I made a Google Hangout like this online hangout, and I invited you and Jason, but your account was a little the like a Jason at before Forever Me.
Ah,
That yeah, so it was wrong direction, so I lost it. I lost you, and only I got Louis. And now where is he?
well, I don't see anything on my side.
Mm.
So all I see is you and me.
No. Did you invite him?
Yep, I did.
And because there's no button I can invite. There's no button can invite him. Can you invite?
Yeah, no, I did invite him. There's a button for me because I set up the call. So when I click on the top left, I have a button that says invite people, and I did that.
So you can't use it again.
You want me to invite him a second time? I mean, I'll send the invite a second time if that's what you're asking. It's the same link that I shared on the text section.
Yeah.
Okay, so I invited him a second time just now.
Cool. It's much better.
The quality level?
And maybe do you have a button to record it?
Well, I think what happens is it's recording now, and then it's going to get saved as a YouTube video, and then it can be downloaded afterwards.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's try.
And then you can edit it afterwards once.
Is he entering in? No.
No, he might have dropped off. Oh no, he's typing now. Maybe.
Yuna told me she was about to start new. Is she going? Are we going to come to Jason's?
Yes.
Yes.
Active and recording.
Acceptable. So after the finishing our conversation, it's just automatically recorded right now.
That's
and then we can download it
exactly
on the YouTube. Oh, finally!
Hi there. Is that all working now?
Yes, it's all working. So after our conversation, so it's now it's just automatically recording.
Oh, excellent.
And then it goes just on to YouTube, and then after I download it, I will put on the subtitles on it. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry to. It takes 2 hours. It really did not want it. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Yuna, to have been late onto the call and to found a quiet place to try and do this.
No, it's not your fault. My fault. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So shall we start?
Well, I think there you go. You dropped off briefly, so are you back?
I can hear you guys, but what about? But doesn't move. Am I moving?
No, your video's gone black, but your audio keeps dropping out as well.
Yeah, you might have bandwidth issues.
What? What?
Your internet connection might be slow.
No, it's not. It's perfectly. But I guess because of my laptop is not really good conditions these days. I don't know, but I can really hear you. But I'm not sure. But is it really recording right like this, Jason? Do you think?
Yep, it's recording. Tell you what, though, why don't we do this in the interest of time?
Okay.
It's okay if you don't have bandwidth.
For
but
you?
Why
For your video?
don't you just ask, us to talk, and Lewis and I'll talk. What would you like us to talk about?
Okay, so the first, okay, let's just start. Pre-online meeting for Golden State Live show. Let's meet our speakers today. Hi, Jason. Would you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi there. So my name is Jason Markowski. I was one of the inventors of the Amazon Kindle. I've been in the field of ebooks and publishing for, oh man, way too long. I'm a huge fan of books, culture, technology, and digital stuff in general, and I'm delighted to be talking to you.
Cool. Yeah, Lewis?
Yeah, hi there. My name's Lewis Dartnell. I'm a professor at the University of Westminster in a field of science called astrobiology, which is all about looking into the possibility of life beyond Earth. That's my day job. That's my science research. But I also do a lot of science writing and science communication. And my latest book, called The Knowledge: How to Rebuild a World from Scratch, is all about exploring the kind of behind-the-scenes fundamentals of how our world works and which inventions and scientific discoveries were the most important ones that enabled us to progress through history. So I talk about things like the printing press.
Well, I will say I'm a big fan of the printing press. I think that's why we're here, right, talking about Jikji and the history of printing. It's a kind of misconception that moving type and digital technology was all influenced by Gutenberg back in the late 1400s. Digital technology really owes a lot of a debt to Jikji from the 1300s. 1377, I think, is the first book that was actually printed with what we now call movable type. And I'm amazed that in the West, we tend to speak a lot about Gutenberg and the printing press, but we actually owe a huge debt to the East as well. And so what's also amazing to me is that you can actually still see one of the first original printed books of what is now modern technology, of the sort that we now take for granted, right? We can throw a paperback in a laptop and put it all in a backpack and hop on a train and take a vacation somewhere and do work and read. And you can even take a thing like a Kindle or a digital book with you and read wherever you are. But the printing press really enabled all this to happen.
Yeah, good. Yeah, assembly's in full swing in Korea.
Nope, she dropped off.
Has she gone completely from the call?
Yeah, she dropped off completely. So let's assume that she rejoins in a second or two. This is maddening.
It is a little frustrating. Jason, are you recording from your end?
Yeah, I set up a Hangout, so this is just going to be it's going to be posted on YouTube afterwards as a video that they can then edit on their side.
Cool. Because every time that Una says something, it hears her microphone and pops up her face onto the screen.
And you see the pulsing thing when she talks.
Yeah, and since she's not got a video active, it's just the screen essentially goes black every time. So I don't know if we maybe ask her to mute her microphone when we're talking, but that now becomes difficult for the conversation.
Well, I think what happens with the video, I don't know if you've seen it, but like when someone takes control and starts talking or makes any kind of noise, they've got noise detection stuff, and the camera kind of shifts focus to whoever's talking, which is kind of an interesting way of doing it.
That's what I mean, and every time it does that, when Una says something, the screen just goes black because she has no video feed. So so
we'll ask her to kind of mute it then. Yeah, we kind of need to teach her some interviewing skills, don't we?
I'm not entirely sure. That she wants to ask us that we reply to? Does she want to be involved in the conversation or deliberately not be involved in the conversation? I wonder if I've not read an email properly.
No, I don't think you have. I think it's sort of we're kind of winging it a little bit.
I'm so sorry.
Hi again, Yuna. Can I ask a quick question before we continue?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
For this recording, are you wanting a conversation between the three of us, or do you deliberately not want to be in the conversation?
Yeah, for three of us.
Okay. In which case, it's probably best if you keep your video camera on rather than turning it off. Because before it was just going black every time you said something.
I guess now it's much better than using the laptop. I'm using my iPhone.
Okay.
And it's going to be better than recording. Yeah. And Jason, are you? Yeah, it's still recording, right?
Oh yeah, I could keep this on for 20 years. It'll record 20 years worth of us setting up a video call. Let's just go into it. Let's just dive in and start.
Okay. So let's keep going. Let's keep moving. I'm sure you're going to be give us some really interesting insights for us today. So I can't really wait to hear from you guys. So Luis, I have questions first for you. So according to our several mails from we shared the back and forth. So the questions first was that you made your own Kindle to prepare for the apocalypse. How do you finding that?
So yeah, I didn't make a Kindle from scratch because I'm sure Jason will agree that in terms of all the electronics and microchips and e-ink displays that you'd need. Whereas I did do other projects from scratch when I was researching the knowledge, like making glass from scratch or making a tool like a knife from scratch. But what I did do for the Kindle was to kind of hack it or modify it to make it last longer, if you like, after the grid goes down. And the idea is that with something like the modern Kindle, where you can store the knowledge of 10,000 books in the palm of your hand, you can have an entire library in the palm of your hand. But if you took seriously the possibility of civilization collapsing and then there being some kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland, then the frustrating thing would be that you wouldn't be able to get access to all that wonderful information. So I hacked my Kindle, so it's got 10,000 books on it, and I've now also added solar panels, so it can that knowledge alive, if you like, and accessible.
Yeah.
Which I think is very cool, by the way. So it's like I live in a land with a lot of sunlight, and so I spend a lot of time on my Kindle. And the fact that you hacked it, I think is beautiful, actually. You know, if I could respond briefly, to what Luis is talking about, with the knowledge, he writes about what it means for us as knowledge does or doesn't get preserved across the generations. And the cool thing with culture and knowledge is we find these clay tablets still and parchments in the Middle East that are thousands of years old, and you can bury them under rock or even use them to make other buildings, and they'll last for generations and centuries and millennia in a way that a device like a Kindle and certainly the digital content on it won't. So, the whole idea of digital knowledge representation versus concrete analog real-world things is a very important question and consideration right now.
Yeah, Jason, see, hacking technology has obviously come a long way. Yeah, so do you think his apocalypse-proof Kindle would survive?
So, I mean, as long as you've got sunlight, you can use the solar panels to generate electricity and recharge the battery in the Kindle. And the wonderful thing about the Kindle is it's so energy efficient when you're using it. It uses a tiny amount of power to update the page, unlike, an iPad or a laptop or something. But nonetheless, the Kindle is, of course, still a technology. It still wears out. Its components would still break. And even the solar panels, although they've got no moving parts, they still degrade and wear out over time as the sunlight falls on them. So even with something like a Kindle, sooner or later you're going to have to have worked out how to do that yourself from scratch, how to make the components and make the kind of microelectronics that go into something like that. You know, the bottom
Yeah.
line, nothing lasts
Right.
forever, and
Mm.
and the whole point about civilization is having that embedded knowledge and capability with lots of different people having lots of different skill sets and all working together, all cooperating to make the things we see around us in the modern world. And that's everything from a Kindle to an internal combustion engine that drives our cars to the way that we grow food.
Yeah, so seriously, so for you, that the question is that what is the most important skills do you think that to prepare for the end of the world? And is it skill for making a fire or like inventing the water machine for purifying water? What is it?
Yeah, so the knowledge isn't really about the end of the world. I just use that as a starting point, a premise for thought experiments. And what I'm trying to do with the knowledge is just, as I explore these kind of behind the scenes things in our own world, but by imagining they're not there anymore, as a way of exploring what it is that we just take for granted nowadays. But let's just imagine that hypothetical scenario does actually happen, that we're now living in the world of The Walking Dead or I Am Legend or any of these other sci-fi films or books that we've all enjoyed. And the questions you're going to have to be able to answer for yourself would be everything from how do I start a fire without a box of matches? How do I use fire to cook my food so I don't die of eating germs and to keep the cold at bay?
Right.
How do I purify water so I'm not going to start dying with infectious diseases like cholera or typhoid or all these diseases that have been a scourge of humanity through history. So there's all these really simple things, really basic things that we just take for granted nowadays that civilization provides for us. So if you had to go back to basics and do all of that for yourself,
Thank you.
there's a lot of very interesting things that you would have to pick up.
Right. Yeah, so that, like you said, the preparing for the apocalypse would be the most important thing. So that it's usually based on the thought experiment overall when I read your book. And what is the really let's just clarify thought experiment. What is the definition of the thought experiments?
So a thought experiment is a way of exploring a question by taking an imaginary or a hypothetical situation. So one of the most famous thought experiments in history was the Gedanken experiment, the thought experiment in German that Albert Einstein played with, which was trying to understand the nature of the relationship between gravity and light. And he imagined people being inside a lift that was falling down. And then the idea is you wouldn't be able to tell if you were falling or floating around without gravity. You would experience them in the same way. So no one ever got locked in a lift and dropped. It was a thought experiment. It was just thinking through the ramifications.
Yes.
He might have dropped off.
Oh.
See, this is the whole problem with culture, of course, and relying too much on digital. We put all our trust in the digital world, and then sometimes it fails us. No, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm here. Are you guys there?
Sorry, you dropped off again. Can you still see us?
No, I think you had dropped off because we were both here.
Yeah, dropped again.
You here again, Una?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Awesome.
And okay, so the next question is for Jason. Jason, what was the most important skills when you make the book?
What do you mean by the most important skills when I make the book? You mean like when we make books as a culture, or clarify what that means?
Maybe like you mentioned about like a typography, or like you said before that there's some printing skills was that you really cared? Yeah, the or the like a feeling of the when you know, so it's really hard to make a real feeling to when you read the book. There's a bookmark, but you can't really put it in a bookmark on the ebook. Yeah. So
Right. So you're talking about what is it like to reinvent books, right? How do
mm,
we take old books and make them new? And so,
mm.
you know, in my own book, which I've got here in a print version in Korean,
Oh, is it in Korean?
it
Good.
totally is. I
Yeah.
totally recommend that everyone go out and buy it. It really is on print. It's great. Actually, it is great. I would say it's like a beautiful cover design and a beautiful interior. And that's what I love about this. So that kind of gets to your question, right? Like, so we're looking at the interior of a book here, and there's a lot that goes on.
Mm.
Everything from the font that's used, like what kind of style, how big is the spacing between sentences.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, what is this little guy over here? What does this whole insert mean? How is this designed? When we invented digital books at Kindle,
Yes.
we really had to answer all these questions for the first time, and we leaned on a lot of lessons that we learned from the printing press and from the centuries of evolution, but we had to take the evolution in print technology and learn from it and say there are some things that matter and some things that don't matter. So for example, if you're reading a book on a digital device, you may not need the concept of a back cover. So for example, what is the value of this anymore? Right? This is the sales tool. You go to a bookstore, this gives you a quick synopsis of what's on the book, and there's barcodes and things that are used to track it and store it in a bookstore's inventory system. Well, you don't really need a lot of that. And as you start asking questions about what you need from an ebook versus a print book, you get to the basic concept of information itself, right? You need the words, you need images, you need something of the style. But if you have too much of it,
Yes, indeed.
and you try to control the formatting too much, you get a very big book, like a big PDF, which is just too big to download very quickly. So when we made ebooks, we had to do a trade-off between what is the right amount of information to give to a consumer, but we had to balance that with not wanting to give too much information to make it look exactly like the original. Like I could make an ebook that looks exactly like this, but it would take you 10 minutes to download it.
Yeah, that is true.
Because it's exactly like this. So we had to reformat millions of books, and each book had its own challenge, and it's expensive to do that, of course, too. So, you know, we had to do it in a cost-effective way so we don't spend hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. And that's what we did at Amazon to basically start the ebook revolution, so that now, for the first time, we actually have ebooks, and all publishers can make them based on processes that we built. I'm no longer at Amazon anyway. I've retired from Amazon. But it was an amazing experience for me to help reinvent books and to create a new kind of media form, you know. And if I look at my own trajectory, my grandfather never read. He didn't know how to read. He was illiterate. And so for me to come from two generations where, you know, now I'm helping to reinvent how people read, I feel like, you know, I've done a great service for culture.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good idea. Incredible. And okay, so the last questions for both. That in this year we chose a topic is that discovering the future through the past. So your technology and then the theories have obviously come a long way, and they're new and very progressive. So, but on the other hand, the Jikji, as an oldest movable metal print book, we might consider it as stopped, but its value seems everlasting, I say. So tell me, how could you really connect between Jikji and your theories or connection or technology? So who wants to answer first?
Well, I'll start.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even sure that Lewis's video is still active. I can't tell. But I will say, you know, in my world of books, Jikji and all printing is relevant, because when you look at where we are now with basic books that we take for granted, we're standing on the shoulders of giants because we're using technology that was built hundreds of years ago and adding to it. And in publishing, we see these revolutions all the time. So with Jikji, with Gutenberg, you have the basic concept of movable type plus oil based on emulsions that will last for centuries instead of oil that will fade in the sunlight and disappear. And you have it also done in an economic way. That's one of the things that Jikji did well too. You know, the whole idea of movable type is you can reuse it. So you can print multiple books from the same type, from the same system.
Yes, right.
And so we have mezzotint now, we have lithography. These are all innovations that came out of printing presses. And from lithography, we have the whole concept of a paperback book was an innovation in the 1920s. The whole idea of a cheap mass-produced book is a relatively recent innovation. It's only 100 years old. And then after that, we have books with CDs or DVDs, books with web links inside them, and now 100% digital books with no real physical stuff except a device to read it on, usually a very thin device. And even with this, you don't even need the concept of a book. You can push a button and hear it read to you out loud. And so, you know, my point is Jikji is one of the giants on whose shoulders we stand. It's an innovation in the world, not just of publishing, not just of print, but of getting ideas out to other people. And that's the most important thing. It's the same thing the internet's doing right now. It's helping us share ideas. So all of culture learns from itself and grows as it evolves.
You're right. So as we become more reliant on information technology, we used to forget the what was the like a previous technology or previous ideas before this outstanding technology. And I guess we need to consider that what was the purpose. I mean, what was the really issues before we get to that the real issues, you know.
Well, if you look at it, right, I mean, the whole brilliant part of printing presses, when Jikji took 700 years ago a lot of Buddhist scriptures and made them available, it was a way of popularizing the content, right? So previously, books were very rare, very expensive. You had to manually copy them out by hand, and that's what people did. It was labor intensive, and all of a sudden now you could create books quickly, because once you designed it once with the movable type, you could just make multiple copies, just like a photocopier, right? And it was fast, and you could get information out to people faster. So from a Buddhist perspective, it gets ideas out, and it helps to promote the Buddhist ideas and popularize them. And we use books now to popularize everything from, you know, what foods to eat to what politician to vote for, or what great ideas you should read by Jason Markoski. But back then, you had to think about it. Ideas and knowledge, the ideas were very privileged, and knowledge was privileged, and only people that had money could afford books generally. There were no libraries. Libraries weren't invented until about 120 years ago, generally speaking, you know, in terms of popular libraries where anyone could go to.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
And by the way, where's Louis?
Yeah, I got an email from him. I think he had to drop off.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
His internet connection was unstable and dropped out, and so
okay.
So you want to wrap this up, and I'll send you the video.
Maybe I can start from. Yeah, maybe I can stop here. Yeah, we could just stop here. So thank you. Maybe so I could say like wonderful to have you guys, and thank you so much for joining me. It's a really late night for you. It's a really early in the morning. And Jason and absent Louis, thank you for your insights, comments today.
Cool. Thank you, Yuna, and I'm gonna have some coffee now.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
See you.
See you soon.